Hey guys, welcome to Superpower User, a TechTube channel focused on computer builds, hardware reviews, and tutorials. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive review into the Edelkrone HeadPLUS module along with the Slide Module V2. What I've got here is the HeadPLUS module along with the slider motor slide module V2 and then the SliderPLUS slider. I did an unboxing of this whole thing a couple weeks back and I've had some time to play around with it, and I feel like I'm much more qualified to talk about it now than when I, of course, did the unboxing. So that's why we're doing the review now. If you're in the market for a slider combo that can tilt, pan, and slide, I would absolutely recommend this setup over the competitors. And there's many different reasons I really like this setup. But that's not to say that this thing is perfect. There are actually a couple compatibility issues that I'll go into in depth in this video. The first thing I really like about this slider is that it is made out of solid aluminum. Almost all of Edelkrone's products are made of solid aluminum and then they're CNC machined, and this is no different. So the first thing that really surprised me when I unboxed this thing is that it's made out of metal. And you can see here, this whole thing is metal. And online, on the pictures, yeah, it looks black, it looks premium, but I guess you really don't realize how well made and how sturdy everything is. Even the base, even this is all metal with, you can see basically all these, everything's screwed together. Really the only plastic parts are the battery and the battery carrier. So what this also means is that this product is actually pretty heavy. The HeadPLUS module is about 2 to 3 pounds, and then the bottom slider and the motor, that's another 2 to 3 pounds. So once completely assembled on your tripod, that's almost 5 or 6 pounds worth of, hunk of metal sitting on top. And then, of course, you add your camera on top, and it's even heavier. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a very well built system. Speaking of battery packs, the HeadPLUS uses a battery pack system here, and then the slide module also uses a battery pack. I opted for the Canon version, so this battery bracket takes 2 LPE6 Canon batteries. These Canon batteries are the same as the one in the 5D Mark IVs or the EOS R, like I've got here recording. They also Edelkrone also supports other battery brackets. You can unscrew this bracket and swap out for another battery bracket, and you can install I think Sony batteries. There's even a bigger one that can go on top. There's a lot of options for batteries. Now, the benefit of having the system run off of batteries is that you can take the slider, take the HeadPLUS slide module, the whole thing outside, anywhere you want, and be able to do your slides, time-lapse videos on the fly without having to be next to an AC, power outlet. There are options. There are options for you to be able to buy an AC adapter and plug directly into the wall, and basically, you can see this is a standard DC power in, and you can plug it directly in to the units, both the HeadPLUS module and the slider module, and always be on, never run out of power. The flexibility is really nice. The other thing to note is that there are no power buttons on this entire device. The only way to turn it on or off is to plug it in. And once you plug it in, you'll hear a little chirp. There you go. I don't know if you heard it. Hopefully you did. The little chirp tells you that this unit is powered on, and then you can go into the phone app, into the Edelkrone app, and be able to control the slides, control basically everything of the unit from the phone. Same with the slide module. The power connector is on the bottom, and you just plug it in and it turns on. Now, there's a con to using batteries. Now, this device seems to be relatively power hungry. Not so much the pan and the HeadPLUS unit. The HeadPLUS unit uses a lot less power, I feel like, compared to the slide module. Maybe that's because the panning, you don't pan as much as you slide. But it seems like in a day, I can get a day's worth of slides out of these two batteries, but if you're doing multiple slides back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, or a very long day, then you'll start to run out of juice towards the end of the day. One potential solution is to use a bigger battery pack or to plug it in. So there's pros and cons to using batteries. Along with the batteries allowing you to take it outside and travel with this thing, the modular construction of this unit also allows it to be easily broken down into pieces to be able to be packed away. So really this unit has 4 main components. You've got the camera cradle. This is where the camera sits. You can take that down, you can fold it in, and you can see it folds down really nicely. You've got the HeadPLUS unit. All you need to do is just unscrew it. It comes off, and you can actually straighten this thing out and then place it into the bag. And then the slide module is just held on by 2 screws. Loosen the screw and it comes off. So with all these different pieces, you can start putting those into a backpack. And what I've got is an in-case DSLR bag, and you can see that it's really easy to just fit all these different things in. Now, you have to remember this is a SliderPLUS Medium version, so the longer version, you're probably going to have more difficult fitting into the bag. The compact and the medium fits in the bag just fine. But once you get to wherever you want to go, and you could take everything out, just screw it in, screw on the motors, and then take your head module and just bolt it on, basically. Align the bottom screw. And then take the cradle and slot it on. And there you go. That took a mere, 30 seconds to be able to set this thing up and ready to shoot. The next thing I want to talk about, compatibility. And there is pros and cons to this compatibility. On the Edelkrone website, they talk about how the slider is compatible, very, very compatible, all the way back to the very old versions. This is, like I said before, this is not the most up-to-date version. This is an older version of their slider. Their current slider has a little bit different design. It has feet that can flip down and give you a little bit more stability, a little bit more height. The V2 module was clearly designed for that new slider and had that new slider design in mind, because I don't know if you can see here, this module is basically, or the slider is basically resting on the AC adapter of this module. On this side, it's not a problem, and it's sitting on the feet, but on the motor side, the feet are not long enough. And you can see here's the screws, and you can screw this thing in, and basically it's just not long enough for you to be able to sit on the feet. The other thing is that you have a conflict between the feet and the motor module. I actually had to take out this foot because the diameter did not allow the motor to engage with the belt. And you got a motor here that spins that basically catches on this belt, and there's a little clearance issue, and you could remove the feet because they're basically useless at this point. I chose to remove this feet to be able to close the gap and fully engage the belt. You're probably never going to have any of these issues if you buy the modern version of the slider and then the V2 motor and the HeadPLUS. But it's just something to be cautious about, because if you're mixing and matching, which is really nice to be able to take an older slider and put all these different components on there and basically still work, there's still little compatibility issues. On a tripod, this complete argument is moot because, again, you don't need the feet, you're not on the ground. And Edelkrone sliders are really designed for working on tripod, especially the way the top and bottom move separately. You get that extra distance in your slides. Something I wanted to talk about in this review is how the application works with this device and the functions that the slider could do. This is something that I wasn't really clear when I purchased this. I could see that you could do all these different things, but it was still not, kind of a little fuzzy for me, so I wanted to touch upon that. The first thing you'll need to do is to download the Edelkrone app from the iOS store or the Google Play Store. And you can see here I've already downloaded it. And you launch it, and after you've plugged both units in, you'll be able to pair them up using Bluetooth. And it'll ask you the first thing, is it on the ground or on the tripod? This thing's on the ground right now. And then what it will make you do is align in the middle, horizontal, right in the middle, okay? And then after that, it's ready to go. So you can see setup's really quick, very simple. And from here, you have different options. You got a time-lapse screen, you have the key pose screen, and then you got a target mode, and then a stop motion screen. So let's start out with key pose. A key pose is almost like a keyframe of a slide. It's really simple to use. Basically, you just slide it over to somewhere, tilt the camera, hold down pose number 1, slide it to another location, and then tilt the camera to where you need it to be, hold for pose number 2, hit pose number 1, and, hang on. Okay. And then you could change your speed and then your ramp rate. So what you could do is you hit number 1 and it will move to your location. The reason why I had to stop that last slide was because it was set to a very, very low speed, and it would have taken maybe 2 minutes before it moved from point A to point B. So nice feature of this is, you hit it, you click it both at the same time, and it'll do a loop feature and go from point A to point B, back to point A, and then back to point B, and it'll just keep on going until basically the battery dies. This is also where I want to, show you the sound level of this device. Edelkrone's website says it's virtually silent, and pretty much I would agree. You do get this very low ultrasonic hum from the motor. The camera really doesn't pick it up, and you have to place the microphone really near it to maybe even hear something. I don't know if you can hear this, but yeah, I don't know if I don't see anything on the camera. I don't know if you're picking any of this up. I do feel a little bit of vibrations through the table, and I can feel the motor, a little bit of vibrations, but noise-wise, it's not a problem. Even if you have the camera on top, it's not a problem. The microphone really doesn't even pick it up. So let me stop the slide. Okay. On the second page, you have the option for doing a time lapse. And on the time lapse, what you could do is you could set your duration for, let's say 6 hours, and then interval of 20 seconds between shots. You can set it to whatever you want, but it'll tell you there that it'll be 1080 photos to get from point A to point B. And then you could hit preview to see what kind of, where it's going from point A to point B. This is, again, it's looking back to the previous key pose. And then that's where it's pulling the different positions. So time lapse, it's really cool. It's really easy to set up. The next is target mode. Target mode allows you to switch between different targets and to follow a target really nicely, really easily. This setup, I did not buy the focus module or the laser module, but it's still able to track a device relatively easily, relatively simply too. So let's pretend that I've got a camera up here, and I'm looking at target number 1, and I've clicked target number 1, and it tells me to slide camera away. And now I've slid the camera away, and now I need to adjust it so that it's looking at the same target. So this, what we're doing is we're training the parallax of this device of how far away this target is. So let's say aim at target, I'm done, and it knows this distance. So I can move this item back and forth, or I can move the slider manually back and forth, and you can see the head unit tracks this target as if it knows exactly where it is, and essentially it does, because we've taught it the angles already. You don't need a focus module, or you don't need a laser module to be able to do this. This is really cool. With the target tracked, I can hit select slider position A, and then slider position B, and then I can move from B to A, and it'll still track the same target. So this is really, really, really cool. It cuts a lot of the guesswork out of this. If I go to position B, it'll slide to position B. At the same time, it's following this target. So key pose, a lot of other sliders, for example, and motorized sliders, they'll do keyframe here, keyframe there, and then it'll remember these 2 keyframes. But what Edelkrone does especially is, like, it's a target. It's almost like it's a smart system where it's able to know exactly where it needs to look, and it doesn't matter if you slide this thing back and forth, it'll be able to readjust on the fly. So that's a really cool feature. You might be asking, do I wish that there was physical controls on this device? You know, some of the competitors have little joysticks or controllers that they can use to be able to do this. Everything's on the phone and on the phone. Well, that's not entirely true, because the way the system is designed, you can actually manually move it to exactly where you need it to be. And by doing this, by being able to move it to exactly where you want it to be, this trumps a joystick every time, because, you know, a joystick, you have to be able to, I got to slide exactly to this location, and I got to pan up and pan down. And even a physical joystick, it's still cumbersome. To be able to say, yes, I need it here, I need it up here, that is amazing. That is a great feature. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the software and the future upgradability of the system. And I kind of touched on this a little bit before, that a lot of the slider is an old slider, but the components are new, or the panning and the motor are new. And Edelkrone has a commitment to basically support a lot of the older versions of their hardware, even upgrade some of their older stuff. And between that and the constant software updates and the new versions of software, it's got a very, very long longevity, this device. The other thing is, there's also some features that they apparently have not implemented yet. So I've talked about how the Bluetooth, the phone connects to the device via Bluetooth, but apparently this thing has Wi-Fi capability. They haven't turned it on yet, and according to Edelkrone, they were saying that they are waiting for basically software, and they're waiting for features and whatever down the road. They're going to turn on the Wi-Fi capability. So it's what I'm trying to say is that the future upgradability, the future features is very rich for this system, and you won't feel like you've bought into something and then the next day everything's changed and you've basically got something that's completely obsolete. They update their free firmware and software quite frequently, and they seem to be committed to supporting their user base, basically. Overall, like I said earlier in the video, I absolutely love this thing. It is one of the best slider systems out on the market. It is well built. It is smooth. It is quiet. It is basically everything you want out of a slider, except for the price. And the price is a little bit on the higher end, but you do certainly get what you pay for. And if you're in the market for a slider, panning, tilt, whatever setup, I would absolutely recommend taking a look at this and considering adding it to your gear. If you made it this far into the video, then you're absolutely awesome, and thank you very much. On your way out, make sure to hit that like button if you can, and perhaps consider subscribing for future videos if you're into this kind of thing. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one.